So our next sparking conversation is a topic that here's my starting point. I'm not sure this topic is associated with leadership and with productive business. No, I'm not saying it's not. I'm saying I think it's
overlooked.
It's overlooked. I think it's not. If you were to say to some people, write a list of elements or fundamentals towards a person who leads, or a person who is trying new things, or a person who is like, I think on that list, very kind of serious, driven, strategic, like those kinds of things become really easy to write down in that list. But the word play, which is this discussion,
it's not typical on a KPI.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. And it's not. It's just, I think it fades into the background. And even if you somehow have thought that it's important, it's very hard to prioritize and in yourself maybe legitimize. Would that be, that'd be a fair starting point?
Yeah.
And I'm saying that because, well, we've talked about slowing down, and I've already self-confessed that, you know, I drive, right? I go, and I think for me, once the slowing down has started to take place, one of the elements that can now happen, the space that is created, is this idea of play.
Yeah.
So what do we mean when we're talking about play? Because I think we're talking about it in a specific way.
A multifaceted way, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, I came across it through Stuart Brown. And I think most people would turn to him to look at the research of this. And he came to it not to do with slowing down per se, but he came to it because NASA were getting all these engineers out of uni that were really excellent in terms of marks, but had no ability to innovate and create the new. They just knew how to answer good questions. But of course, with NASA and space, it's all new. You got to find the question first.
Yeah.
And finding that question requires innovation. And so they asked him to help them to develop an evaluation program for their people coming into NASA.
Okay.
And what he said was, let's ask them some questions about play. As in, when you were 10, what did you play with? And what did you do?
Yeah.
And for the students or for the candidates that said, we would pull apart a stereo and put it back again, or play with my dad's car and fix the engine and
have
all that
10
kind
bolts
of
left over at the end.
Correct. All of that sort of stuff. And maybe they got 70 out of 100 rather than 100 out of 100. But they were the ones I would then bring into NASA because they had this element of play built into them that is sort of the breeding ground for innovation, new things, and being able to see it and have the freedom to step into it, not just answer questions, not just be good academically, but good at thinking. And the way he talks about it is to use that word, play.
Yeah. And I also, that question that you just said, what did you play with when you were 10?
Yeah.
I feel like that's often the thing that people are, and maybe it depends on personality type. Okay. So like
and
I'll speak.
Opportunity.
Opportunity. But I think that is easy to dismiss for some people because they think if it doesn't feel like work, then it isn't work.
Yeah.
And like you said, it's illegitimate or maybe it's not as respectable, or you know what I mean? There's something really...
They're not earning money from it at 10. They're just having fun with it at 10.
Yeah, but there's something really interesting. Like, what does it say about me? I'll just speak for myself. That the thing that I find the most joy in is the one that I'm quickest to be like, but that doesn't count.
Yeah.
You know? And I find that not just with myself, but with other people I speak, and with leaders that we work with, right? When we start getting to the bottom of what is the thing that you care a lot about, they sometimes won't say the thing that then bubbles up to the surface in small talk or when you're getting to know them. They'll say something else that they think is worth saying.
Yeah.
And they delegitimize the thing that actually is there and has been there, you know, as something that they really do love. So for me, when I think about play, I think about it as a gateway to passion. Did I say play?
Sure.
Yeah, play and passion. Yes.
Yeah. And I think that's helpful when it comes to figuring out, especially when we talk about cause-driven leadership and embracing who you are in a leadership space, that connection is a strong one. But it's obvious, but sometimes not to me or to the person, you know?
Yeah, because it's connected to things like curiosity. Like when you just strip everything away, like say when you're 10, but even as an adult, just say you've got the whole day, nothing to do, like no agenda, no one's forcing you to do anything. What are you spending your time doing? What are you curious about, in other words? What are you going to like investigate or muck around with? Or, you know,
That's a great question to consider, isn't it?
it is.
Yeah.
If you had a day to yourself.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you get nothing to prove, no one to show it
Nothing to achieve.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just what are you going to have fun with?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's play.
I've been asked that question.
Yeah.
How would you spend or what is your perfect or most enjoyable day look like?
Cleaning out my email inbox would be super fun.
Well, I answered it, and then I realized later that day, I think it's as I was falling asleep, I realized that's not true. That's actually not true. Okay. Why did I say that? And then the next day was like, what would it actually look like? And I thought about it, and there was a real answer. But I had to work to peel back the layers of legitimacy and validity and what I think is socially valuable and what I've been taught is quality. And for someone in the world that I live in, I had to peel all that back. And then there was something there that I was like, duh, what?
Yeah.
That is what if I'm locked in a room for a day, this is what I will end up doing.
Yeah.
Why didn't I think of that?
Yeah. That's powerful, because the obvious one that we go to is what you just said then, which is I've got this list of things that I've not got to. If I have a day, I'm going to do that list.
Yeah.
But that's not play. That's the pressure.
It's not even rest.
No,
it's none of those things.
But that's an agenda. That's what Stuart talks about is that's agenda driven. You're going to do something because of some pressure.
Yeah.
But if you just have the moment, which is why they go to that age typically when we don't have a lot of pressures and no one's driving us to do anything, you just get left in the afternoon.
Yeah.
You got the whole house and you go and do something.
Left to my own devices.
Yeah.
Right?
And you go, what are you going to do? Yeah.
But that's also, part of the thing that how often are we bored anymore to the point where we create and play? We're so...
Goes to that mindfulness.
Right,
guy.
that kind of margin, I'm just thinking, as you've said, what did you play with when you were 10? What were you doing? I'm literally sitting here going, you know what I spent countless hours doing when I was 10? I'm going to age myself here.
Okay, can't wait.
Spooky dokies. You know what spooky dokies are?
I don't.
You don't know what spooky dokies are, right? So they're just little colourful bits of plastic that you push on to, you can't believe we're having this discussion, that you push on to the spokes of your BMX bike.
Oh.
So you there's lots of them. You click them on, and then they slide up and down.
Oh,
so when you ride, they make a noise.
Yeah, and you played with those.
No, so
okay.
I didn't just.
That's what that
really,
sounds fun.
Talk about being judged about my play. I think that just happened right then. And
no, that's legitimate.
Played with
that's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, tell me more.
She's way overcompensating now.
She's got the wrong way.
Spooky dokies?
Spooky dokies.
Okay, keep going.
And so I would turn my BMX bike upside down.
Yes.
Of
course you did.
Exactly know what I'm talking about. I'd put the seat on the ground, the steering wheel, I'd like the handlebars on the ground as well. And I would sit there and I would make my bike go really, really, really fast.
Just the back wheel.
Just the back wheel. And it would go, it would literally do this kind of,
yes.
Sorry, Michael, sound guy. I just kind of yelled in the microphone there about spooky dokies. I got really excited about spooky dokies. So this is the play, right? I can't imagine how many hours. Now, there's a couple of things about that. I'm musical as well, so music's a big deal. So it was mechanical. It was musical. It had zero purpose in that sense. Like it was. Yeah. But if you said, what could I do for the afternoon? I'd be there going, that'd be me. I'd be like, this is so cool. Like kind of learning something.
Yeah.
I don't know, connecting dots. That's interesting. What is that? That's the curiosity. That's the play. Now all of a sudden, all of these things are kind of triggered, right, by this ability. And so I feel like now though we consume all of our gaps in our lives with other things. Like we're doom scrolling or we're we're too busy.
Sure.
So the idea that you actually say, I have time and space. therefore that question you just asked, what would you do with it? Forget a day.
Yeah, yeah.
What would you do if you had an hour with nothing?
Yeah.
The straight answer usually is nothing, a mindless kind of,
Yeah.
which is definitely not play.
It's not play, no.
So I have a question associated with that though, because so for me, the other things I've written music and Lego for me as a kid.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I would,
Yeah.
but interestingly, and I'd love both of your input on this. As I got older, those things that I would play in, I would just play music, write music, think like just for no kind of point, like in that sense, no outcome intended. And Lego, you just get a massive box and just do whatever, right?
Yeah.
For a long period of time, if I actually dared to play back in those areas, I would follow an instruction manual and make a piece of Lego, or I would perform a piece of music,
Right.
and do it out. Now, I could probably convince myself I was still doing music and Lego. The play's gone though, and I still to this day I do. My de-stressor is to go and make a piece of Lego, but my problem is I'm realizing I like it because it's the one place in my life where I don't have to make decisions because I just follow instruction.
Okay.
That's not play either.
No.
No. Well, it could be,
you,
but
you could psychoanalyze me now.
yeah, but it could be. But I think what you're saying is
For him.
it's not actually for you.
For me,
Yeah.
Yeah. You know there's another way to do those activities that is actually play.
it's been a long time since I've had a bucket of Lego,
Yeah.
shoved it onto the top of a
Yeah.
table and gone,
Let's do something. Which is kind of what Toria was saying, where she leapt into an answer, but then thought about it and went, you know what?
Right.
Why did I say that? It's
Yeah.
clearly this other thing.
Yeah.
And
And
you've gone a little bit deeper
Yeah.
with the surface thing and gone, it's clearly this, even though I do this typically.
yeah,
Yeah.
And it was similar for me too. It was connected.
resembled it, right?
Yeah. But it had, I think, changed and morphed over the years as I qualified what was acceptable, like play, kind of like what you're saying, or even what I could create the brain space for, which is what you're saying. It's like you're going through the motions of something that you used to really enjoy, but you've taken out the freedom
Right.
because of the parameters of your life.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So that is interesting.
The same for me. When I became 20, just stopped playing competitive sport and
Right.
just thought, I'm happy just watching it sort of thing. But no, when I was 10, it wasn't just the playing of it. It was the competing with others to try and just get better. Not because I
Yeah.
wanted to beat anybody, just because that was fun for me to do that.
Yeah.
So it's important to think about it for a moment, isn't it?
Yeah.
What we're saying, it's not just the first thing that pops into your head, like notice it. The second thing, like just sit with it for a moment and then see where it goes. Try and get to that purpose of play. Because the other thing that Stuart Brown talks about is that if all you do is work and you have no play, the opposite of play is not work. The opposite of play is depression and isolation and feeling hopeless. Because you take those elements of play out of what you do every day and you're just going through the motions, just seeing life out to the end. But that's not much of a life. So it's important to find those moments of play. If you can have play in your work, awesome. But even if you can't, to set aside enough time so that you can do things that maybe aren't productive in the traditional sense of whatever that means, but they're productive for you because they give you the brain space to be you and to have fun with doing something. Just helps you to have energy for the rest of life.
Yeah. And I also think we can't ignore, like for me, this is also a deeply spiritual thing. And this is something that I know, like God was so clear with me recently, and he asked me the question, and I've told both of you about this. I think he asked me, what do you love? And it has taken me 3 months to answer the question because I wasn't making room for play or allowing myself to legitimize what felt like play to me.
Yeah.
It literally took me 3 months of like weeding through these other things. But for me, that was like my creator going, no, I'm not asking you what you think is worthy or what you think I want you to say or what you think other people will value. Like, I made you and I know that you love things.
Yeah.
One thing in particular. And he wanted me to answer it.
Yeah.
Because the whole idea of the things that bring us joy, like that's like divine, I believe.
It's really good.
And we were created to enjoy certain things. And when we don't, I kind of think we're kind of dishonoring the one who made us to love them.
Totally agree.
So for me, play is not just, and this whole conversation, right? It's not a small thing.
No.
When it comes to productivity and when it comes to leadership and when it comes to, but even on like a really fundamental, like spiritual level, like that's something that my God has asked me because it matters.
Yeah.
And it's not something I would have pursued otherwise.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. My thought is similar, but I have this image of God saying, I take pleasure in watching you do that.
Yeah.
And that's a powerful question, I think, to ask yourself, like, what do you think God takes pleasure in when you do it? Because some people have the view that God's not taking pleasure in anything that we do or that anything we'll ever do, but that's not fair. That's related to what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So, but it's a powerful statement to say, God takes pleasure in seeing me do these things because he made me a certain way with certain gifts. And when I exercise them, I think the line that I get that from is Chariots of Fire. And he says, yeah. God takes pleasure in me running and I'm going to continue to run.
Yeah.
It's such a simple thing, but he obviously played with running in that sense. He's very good at it. And the continuation of it for him is God's taking pleasure in seeing me do it.
Yeah.
I'm going to continue to do it.
Yeah.
But that's the way that we did play and work and life. Amen. That's great.
Yeah.
So let's connect play and the new thing.
Yeah.
Just briefly. I think that's worth it. Because,
For sure.
You know, for us at Nexus, the trajectory of all the things we're looking in is what's next, what's new, what is on our heart to see come that come into fruition in our communities that isn't there yet. What's God doing?
Yeah.
Back to Isaiah 43 passages, like there's always a new thing. So we're trying to stay in step with that. Let's go shadow side for a second. We do that. Life and leadership without play. What are the ramifications of life and leadership without play? Thoughts?
Yeah. Well, it's the depression and the isolation and exhaustion. Yeah. All of those things. Because you're just doing it out of a different space than what you're built for.
Yeah.
I think it also like betrays a little bit of what we personally or corporately consider leadership.
Okay.
Like we have an idea of what it means to be a leader and to lead that if it cuts out a lot of what we're talking about here, and there's a conversation that we're going to have later too, but like we have crafted leadership to be a certain thing that only includes this much of what it means to be a human, actually. So we've kind of turned it into something that is unsustainable and unattractive.
Very limited.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it tells me that, okay, we have, and according to who? Like we are creating these limits, right? Like it's so interesting to me that what is it about us that we go, if it feels like something that gives me life and that I love, that's not work or that's not leadership.
Not be doing that.
But that's coming from me. Like nobody, if I talk to people about what I love and what I'm good at, but I say, but I can't do that. I'm going to do this over here. They wouldn't be like, yes, very good.
It's a great idea.
Some people might be challenged if I stretch that to extend to them as well, but they wouldn't be like, yes, quite. Yes, exactly. No, that's me. That's me going for some reason. I won't allow myself to consider that.
And be seen that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this is the social agreement.
That is the real dark side.
This is the social agreement.
Yes.
That we don't talk about. And the social agreement is, let's all just be low level happy with being unhappy.
Yeah.
Let's all be let's all agree that this is just how it is.
Yeah.
Let's all just agree that there is no joy.
Yeah.
We can't do the things
Yeah.
that we love. We all have to just do what's in front of us, even if it sucks, because it's just the way it is. It's a social agreement.
We all talk to leaders all the time too, where you ask them questions like, why did you lead to do that? You don't even like doing that. Why have you,
right.
why are you leading to do that? And they say, because people expect me to do that. You go, who's expecting you to do that? Have you asked anyone? They go, you just know that they're expecting. You don't know.
No.
You're judging before you've asked, which is one of our other things that we've been talking about. But that we'll just do it because we think everybody wants me to lead this way. That's trouble.
It's like arbitrary life decisions,
Correct.
like based on assumptions.
Well, it's based on all of what we're talking about here. It's based on, I don't want to be seen. I don't want to say what I play in.
Right.
And I don't want to say how I'm authentic or how we can be honest and vulnerable with each other.
Yeah.
I don't want to say those things because that opens a can of worms that maybe I don't want to go down. But at the same time, not opening them means you just, not only do you not play, you're not honest. No one's honest. Everyone sort of does the thing that we all think everyone wants us to do. And then you go around and talk to people and no one wants to be there or do it.
Well, here's my, so this is my...
Why? How did we get here?
But this may sound like an obscure example. I've used this before though. It's that in advertising, it's that Canadian club ad, right?
The non-beer ad.
The one that says, "Come on, guys,
Yeah.
nobody actually likes drinking beer."
Which is not true.
Sure, but this is what they're trying to do there. They're trying to break through a social agreement for some people who are actually going, I actually don't.
Joining in but hating every minute.
They kind of thought I did.
They're clearly not Irish.
They're clearly not. But this kind of, what they're doing is they're challenging the social agreement. They're kind of saying, are there any people out there who actually want something to be different? They don't actually want to be like this or want to live like this, right?
Yeah.
And so leadership here in play can challenge the social agreement,
Yeah.
right?
Totally.
Yes, for sure.
So what happens all the time is like, you know, I'll have people say to me, oh, man, the way you live or do that or the decision you make there, I couldn't do that. Now, I didn't make that decision to challenge them, as you said before. I made that decision because that's the next decision for my life. This is the trajectory. This is the next step. People are challenged because you've stepped out of the social agreement or you've managed to actually try something new. So one of the starting points I have with people when they're stuck in this and not giving themselves permission even to entertain the idea of play or entertain the idea of following into something they love or they care about. The first starting point, and this is really simple, I do a little thought experiment with them. I say, do you understand that tomorrow, I'm not saying it would be easy, but tomorrow you could get on a plane and become a barista in Paris? Now, it seems like a weird concept, right? But
because baristas suck in Paris?
no, but what I'm saying is your life can change
Yeah.
right now.
Yep.
And you could, if that's what you're
In very
passionate
dramatic
about,
ways.
that's what you're passionate about. I'm not saying it will be easy. I'm not saying right now you have enough money to do it. But if you can step into something new and you will walk through how tough it is and all of the, I understand. But it's the cognitive understanding that it is possible, that we can challenge the social agreement that this is as good as it gets.
Yeah.
That this is it. And I think what you're talking about there, play unlocks passion, that if you can somehow start to find the permission, again, this is such an incubate topic that we would love people to come on the journey with us. It's deep work. It's not quick work.
Yeah.
But if that permission's somehow connected to the idea that play can start and passion can start to get unlocked, that is the beginning of you being able to say, okay, then what am I going to do about this?
Yes.
Yeah.
But we leave it laying dormant.
Yeah.
And it's the quiet, silent killer of what if, or yeah, I never did, or
For sure.
I'm not sure, or
And Brené Brown adds to that by saying that if you don't declare the thing that you care about and play with, no one knows about it.
Absolutely.
No one laments with you when you don't get it done, which is
No.
also crushing.
Yeah.
So play unlocks belonging
Yeah.
and team and community.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you say you like playing golf, as I do. You just say, I care about it, go play it. You find people that play golf. You find a community pretty fast. You get connected around similar things. I mean, it's not hard, but you still need to at some point declare out loud, I actually care about playing Lego. I was about to say
whatever.
your things that you've not named in this, video. But like
can.
it, as soon as you say it out loud, that comes at a cost though, because you're being vulnerable. You are actually being vulnerable in that moment to say, no, this matters to me. I used to play with this, so, say for an adult. I used to play with this. I haven't done it for 20 years. I want to go back to it. Some people may well snigger when you say the thing.
It's childish. It
could be.
It's silly.
You may say, do you
You've
want to go
moved
back
on.
to studying rocket science? I don't know.
Sure,
but,
but right. That might be your area of play. Like,
correct.
Yeah.
But the saying it out loud is
Yeah.
challenging when people know you a certain way.
Yeah.
Sure.
And now you're challenging identity, you're challenging a whole list of things. People might respond to that in weird ways. But I guarantee you there'll also be people that respond to you super positively and go, that's inspiring, go to it. I want to support you in that.
Yeah.
And what potentially happens as a byproduct of that is people go, well, maybe I could find enough courage to do that in my own life.
Yeah.
Like this is the leadership element.
And you do it in one area.
stepping into this.
Do it in
Yes.
one area of your life, like play. It infects the rest of your life too. So if it's unrelated to your work, guaranteed though, stepping into it with play outside of your work will infuse passion, enthusiasm, care, imagination back into your other work.
And just, I mean, I'm still thinking about what you said there, Michael, about isolation.
Yeah.
When you don't. Because if you take the thing that actually means the most to you and actually brings you the most joy, and you, for one reason or another, tell yourself that this isn't something I talk about,
Yeah.
or this isn't something I share with people,
Yes.
that's like the core of you cut off in your relationships, leadership,
Yeah,
whatever
you're literally
it is.
isolated in the middle of people.
Absolutely. And I've done that, like moving from a culture that valued certain things that meant a lot to me, and then moving to a culture that really just didn't.
Yeah.
And so I was like, this isn't a cultural value. It doesn't connect me with others, and so I'm just not going to use it. I'm not going to bring it out. And that's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
And it impacts, just like play has the power to positively impact, like all areas of your life. Neglecting it also has the power to impact every area of your life.
So true.
And that's really significant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is why it's a fundamental.
Yeah. And that word you connected, I think, is really important. It is not only the gateway to passion, but to actual joy, to deep joy, like to fulfilled. Joy is that when the things you care about are in action, they're in flow, and you can see you can see you're a part of it, and there's fruitfulness, and there's that deep joy is something that we lack.
Yeah.
Across the board.
How good would it be that at the end of the day, when we gather with people, rather than talk about how busy we are and how burnt out we are and how on the edge of like breaking down we are, and say, this is so good, I'm like living the life, to say, this brought me joy today.
Yeah.
I played with this today and I was so happy.
Yeah.
I mean, why is that not work? Whereas overwork is work. I mean, that's not, the negative isn't more honoring.
Noble. Yeah.
But you and I have had this discussion. This is the extension of the social contract. If you were to play golf 3 days a week right now, that would be judged by many in the social contract
For sure.
as being lazy and a little bit indulgent.
Yeah.
If you had $50 million in the bank
And did it.
and played 3 days a week, people would say, why don't you play 5?
Yes.
What the heck is that?
Yeah.
But
You're right.
that's a social contract that somehow it's an unspoken
Yeah.
permission
You don't have the time to do
it's
it.
acceptable now.
Yeah.
Because, but the reality is, if your life and the way you put your life together enables you to do things, and that's not irresponsible. That's you. I'm not saying that's the goal. Everyone needs to play golf 2 days a week, but you know what I'm saying? We worry what the social, and the problem with the social contract is we don't actually know what it is. It's not defined. It moves.
It's based on, let's face it, it's based on fear. It's based on we fear we're going to get judged for it.
Yeah.
If we can get all of us, I mean, I have to get past that as well, but if we could all just get past that and just go, you know what? I just love having a bubble bath I'm just going to go and do that. Yeah. Brings me joy.
Yeah.
But is it really that bad? You know what I mean?
I wouldn't judge you for that.
But I think that's...
But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
to say that out loud, or to say, like, say at the end of the day, you gather for drinks at 6 o'clock and you had an hour between work and coming out for drinks.
Yeah.
And you say, I had an hour of bubble bath. Like, I'm just so happy. Like, is that really so bad? Should I really come and say, oh, work was so hard. Like, I just beat my head against the wall all day,
Well,
got
the social
nowhere.
contract answer
But that's
is
not more fun.
No, the social contract answer is you should be 5 minutes late. And as you run in to drinks, you should apologize for being late because your life is hectic.
Yeah.
And that is the acceptable way to go through life.
Yeah.
The acceptable way to interact with peers and the acceptable way to lead. So now, you know, in our link to leadership, somehow the social contract around leadership is if you are leading something of significance, it must be stringing you out. It must be potentially not very joyful. And it must be productive in the ways that we assume are the productive elements. We just think that if play is an element and a fundamental in the front end, I believe all of those things become exponentially more fruitful anyway.
Yeah.
I think you will be more profitable, more productive, more... We're not talking about reducing...
The science says so.
The science says so that actually you will X your output. By this being a fundamental of your life and leadership. But it feels counterintuitive. And I think that's worth stating, that we understand it feels counterintuitive and countercultural, especially to the preconceived social contract that I think we've signed up to without actually having read the terms and conditions of the social contract, because I think it's
really
a living
true.
document that keeps changing on us. And because we're fearful we don't actually know what's acceptable, we say, well, let's just play to the lowest common denominator and hopefully we'll get through.
And I also think some people believe this is only a reality or an option for the privileged few. And it's related to what you're saying about golfing.
Well, that's all right for you guys.
But just the privileged few, not the everyday person moving through life. And that's exactly what we're arguing for, that play is for the everyday person moving through life, not just the privileged few.
Yeah.
Hey.
Good chat.
Yeah, as always. Now to play.
Yeah. Indeed.
Not golf.
Play some golf?
Yeah, I'm playing.
You
No,
know
I'm
play
not
golf?
being out.
Yeah.
I have to think of someone else. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.